This is the bike that Suzuki forgot. It's a 33-year-old time capsule to a bygone era. But what actually is it, and how on earth did Suzuki misplace this machine for more than 3 decades? I'll have all of the answers in this video, and we might also get to compare this thing to its modern day equivalent. Get ready for a tale that involves a massive billion-dollar corporation and the biggest police force in the nation. This is a story 30 years in the making that ends with the two-wheel showdown that we thought we'd never see. The Suzuki DR800S, aka the DR Big, was a 779cc single-cylinder dual-sport motorcycle made by Suzuki from 1990 through to 1999. The motor put out 54 horsepower and 59 Nm of torque. At the time of production, it was the largest single-cylinder engine on the market. The predecessor to the 800S was the DR750. And its successor was the original V-Strom 1000. The DR Big was the mass production version of the DRZ, which was raced at the Paris-Dakar back in the day. I'm sure many of you watching have fond memories of fun adventures on the old DR Big, which begs the question, how on earth do I have such a pristine example in front of me here today? So this is the machine, this is the bike that Suzuki forgot. That's the title of the video. Now let me tell you the story behind that title. So this is a 1991 Suzuki DR Big 800 single-cylinder beast. It was manufactured in October 1990, and in 1991 the Suzuki importers for the UK were a company called Heron Suzuki. They loaned this bike to the Met Police Force. That's the London Police Force if you're watching from overseas in America or something. So that's like the biggest police force in the UK. This bike was loaned to those guys to use, I guess, to catch bad guys. I don't really know what they'd use it for in London, but you know, they had it.
For what reason I have no clue. Why does the Met Police need an off-road dual sport Suzuki? Not quite sure. Anyway. The Met Police had this bike and they put it in a lockup, never to be used. It turned up with the Met Police with 0 miles on it. They put it in their lockup and they forgot about it. So too did Heron Suzuki. So for the next 30 years, more than 30 years, this machine sat in the lockup of the Met Police Force, completely forgotten about by both the coppers and Suzuki GB themselves. When Heron Suzuki changed to Suzuki GB, they didn't know about it.
Heron Suzuki stopped being the importers for Suzuki to the UK, and Suzuki GB was set up, and I guess in that changeover they forgot that the Big was with the Met Police, and the Met Police weren't using it. It was in a lockup somewhere and it got completely forgotten about. Fast forward 30 years, a van turns up at Suzuki GB HQ, there's a knock on the door, they come out to see this and they're thinking, what on earth is that? They do a bit of digging and they work out that this bike has been with the Met Police all of this time and it hasn't been used whatsoever.
So that's how it turned up back in the hands of Suzuki with no miles on it. They reckon it'd never been run, never been started. So Suzuki recommissioned the machine, got it back up and running to the state it is now.
It came back with 4 miles on the clock. 4 miles in more than 30 years. It was an absolute specimen, but as you can imagine, it wasn't in the best state. It'd been in the lockup all that time. I'm guessing it was dusty and it definitely needed a bit of a recommission. So the guys in the Suzuki workshop brought the thing back to life, to the condition that we see it today, and I thought, what a unicorn we've got on our hands now. A more than 30-year-old bike with no miles on it, in mint condition. And that's when they gave us the call. They said, do you want to come and have a look at this bike? We think it's right up your street. And they were right. It's stories like this really get us going. We love them. We love to share cool tales from the motorcycle world with you guys. And in my opinion, this is one of those stories.
But what is it like to ride today?
And as a bonus for this video, lads, we always like to do a 999 laser. We're going to put the old school Suzuki Dual Sport off-road capable machine against the new generation. We like to throw these twists in to our videos, and that's the twist we've got today.
So, as you can see, guys, we're at Suzuki GB today. We're in a very privileged position to be able to test some cool bikes. Suzuki have invited us to do this. I've got something very special in front of me here. Next to Sean, it's not so special. This is one of the oldest road bikes I will have ever ridden. Start up procedure. Make sure the fuel is turned on. Choker's up. Clutch in. Oh, I've got to turn it on first. There we are. Old versus new. Grandad on a new bike. Me on an old bike. This bike's older than me. So it's old versus new then. We'll both have a ride and see what we think. And you know what? It doesn't feel that old to me. It feels like a motorcycle. I thought I was a bit nervous, a bit trepidatious this morning, thinking it's going to feel like an old, horrible machine that I just can't get on with. But that is certainly not the case. Get on the road. A bit vibey. Swap. Yeah.
After a fair few miles on our respective rides for the morning, it was time for Sean and I to swap. Sean was stepping back into the past, and I was heading back to the future.
Oh, that feels a bit different. That feels a bit different indeed. A lot less vibey. A lot less vibey. And you can feel the power. That's got some poke to it. Oh, blimey! That's a bit different. Big in the background. Woohoo! There's Grandad on his old bike there. But that is cool. That is cool. Yeah, I don't know about the looks. It definitely looks dated. But retro is in right now. And in my world anyway, in the motocross world, retro is definitely in. So that's getting some cool points for me. The V-Strom, I quite like the look of the V-Strom I'm on as well. Sleek colourway. I do prefer it in yellow. That's what Suzuki's should be, in my opinion. This has obviously got all the modern gadgetry as well. But me and Sean, we're both from that off-road world, that motocross world, and we prefer the raw nature of the Big. No aids, no interference. That's what we're all about. That's where we come from. Woo-hoo! I love bikes. 2-stroke, 4-stroke, off-road, on-road, bikes are cool.
So now that we've both had chance to ride each of these machines, let's hear from Sean, who actually remembers the DR Big from back in the day. So we've just got back from ripping a few miles on these two machines behind us. But first, I just want to say that bikes like this, I absolutely love. I love a cool, interesting, unique story. It actually doesn't really matter to me what the machine is, what the bike is, whether it's a 2-stroke, a 4-stroke, a dirt bike, a road bike. I don't mind. As long as it's got a cool story like this, I'm all about it. And this has got one of those stories. We've been back in time to ride this 1991 DR Big. And as a little twist that we like to do here on the channel, we've compared it to we're calling it the modern day equivalent. So they're not like for like exactly, but this is kind of filling the niche that this bike did back in the early 90s, right? So let's dive into it. You rode the V-Strom first this morning, I was on the Big, and then we swapped. So I'm interested to hear how your thoughts are going from the modern day to the old school.
Literally, yeah, back in a time machine, yeah, in the hot tub. Yeah, I got on it and I was like, oh my God, what is it with the rubber mounted foot pegs? I thought the things were falling off. And then that position, you know, like I went to put the foot on the foot peg and I thought, where is the foot peg? And then I was like, the seating position, you know, like the rider triangle as they call it, was very strange from the V-Strom because it was so sit up forward. I mean, I'm a short guy and it fit, yeah, apparently so, but it fitted me well. So I was thinking, you get a 6-footer on there where his knees are going to be up into the bars. But the riding position felt very much like an old GS BMW, which the police used back in the day. So possibly that's maybe why they've tried that, because the position of it is very like that. But you know, the actual ergonomics and everything else was just, yeah, it felt like a bone shaker. I mean, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable, and to be fair, it didn't hang about. It cruised at a decent speed, so I was quite surprised how powerful it was.
Yeah, let's talk about that motor, single cylinder.
Yeah,
right?
Single cylinder. Yeah.
It was a bit vibey compared to this one, isn't it?
Very much, yeah. And I can understand why they got the rubber-mounted foot pegs, because without them, I bet you could feel a lot of vibration through. You know, the engine seemed to be quite torquey. It seemed to cruise quite reasonable. You know, tick over was a bit debatable.
Yeah, well, I had a few problems when we was in town this morning at the traffic lights, the roundabouts. Yeah. Tick over was just...
Yeah, and when we were in that bit of traffic as well, I could feel it heating up. You know, you could feel the heat off it. So I wouldn't want to be sitting around in a city, you know, in traffic on it.
That's not what it's
that's not what it's for. But you know, even though it's like just a a single disc, I think the brakes worked fine. It was definitely unique, but it felt so skinny and like you could feel it moving. You know, like you get on modern bikes, they're very stiff and the chassis, you know what I mean. But you get on that, and it was. You could feel it twitching about a little bit. You know,
when I jumped onto the V-Strom, instantly you could tell that the power's there is peaky off the bottom in the lower gears. You're like, whoa! You could wheelie this one quite easily. I'm not so sure about this one.
No,
it just feels modern, doesn't it? It just felt like planted in the road. Like the corners on that, I felt way more confident. On the Big, I was a little bit trepidatious in the corners.
Yeah, I mean, the only criticism I've got about the V-Strom is it was very windy. I think that screen pushed it, you know, and I know we haven't got roadie helmets, do you know what I mean? We've got off-road helmets, so there was a lot of wind in your face and a lot of noise. I felt it more on that than that, yeah, for sure. But the V-Strom was like, you could cruise about all day on that. It felt lovely. Yeah. But I think back in the 90s when that was released, I think it was it would be a good competitor to everything else out there.
So obviously we've gone from single to a parallel twin here. Why do you think Suzuki made that choice, that decision to go down that route for these types of bikes?
So you can get a lot more power out the, the parallel twin, less vibration, and it's a far smoother engine. It's,
yeah, you could instantly feel that.
I mean, it was lovely to ride. Where that is a big 800 thumper, I mean, considering it's 800cc, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was massively vibraty, but there was definitely vibration there.
This big, it's got character, it's got a story, and that's what we love. So what a privilege it's been today to ride both of these bikes, but especially the Big with how old it is and how many miles it's got on the clock. It's a privilege to be able to put a few more miles on that clock. Yeah. Not too many, because we don't want to, it's old, and we don't want to.
And the cockpit on that was like
so analog.
Yeah, weren't it?
I've never ridden a bike like that.
No, I mean, you never pulled a choke out before on a bike, have you?
Not on a road bike.
No.
So a big thanks to Suzuki for allowing us to come along, ride these bikes, sharing that cool story with us. There's surely more stories like this one out there. So if you know of any, let me know. Give me a message on Instagram at 999laser, because I really, really do like featuring bikes like this, no matter if they're 2-stroke, 4-stroke, road bikes, dirt bikes. If it's got a cool story, I'm all about it. So drop me a message. I don't know the name of the policeman that forgot they had this in their lockup, but from me, and I'm sure from our viewers at 999 Laser, we say thank you for your bad memory and for producing such a cool bike, a cool story. It's all down to you, sir. Sean, as always, thanks for riding with us today.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks you guys for watching. Until next time, I'll see you at the track, or maybe I'll see you on the road. Cheers.
Can we pull some wheelies now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the rain.